Hi, everyone. Thank you, folks, for joining us today for a 360 view of acquisition webinar. My name is Annie Gray, and I'm the account executive here at Looker and Google Cloud. I will be your host and moderator for today's presentation. On today's webinar, Kira Furuichi, data scientist, and Divine Edem, associate manager of acquisition at Ritual, will cover how an e-commerce startup makes use of their platform, on-site attribution data, and modeling to develop a multifaceted understanding of customer acquisition and its performance. We're about to start, but I wanted to go over a few quick housekeeping items before we get started. We'll have a 15-minute Q&A session at the end of our presentation, but feel free to send in questions during the presentation as well. To ask a question, please type in your question in the Q&A box and click send. We will do our best to answer all the questions during and at the end of the presentation. This presentation is also being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording once it's over. The windows you see on your screen are all customizable, meaning you can minimize them, maximize them, or move them around the screen as you see fit. If you accidentally minimize or close a window, don't worry, just click the toolbar menu on the bottom of your screen to bring it back up. And with that, I will pass it over to Kira. Enjoy, everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kira. I'm really excited to talk to you today about how Ritual uses acquisition and data to create a 360-degree multifaceted view of acquisition and how it allows us to expand to new acquisition channels. Again, my name is Kira. I am the data scientist at Ritual, and I am a fan of actionable data, good vegan food, and anything related to LA. Go Dodgers. Divine is our wonderful individual on our acquisition team. She is also a Southern California native, a fan of all good things, food and live music, pre-pandemic, of course. So a little bit about Ritual. We are an e-commerce D2C startup founded in 2016 by Kat Schneider with the ultimate goal to sort of reimagine the daily multivitamin and to make healthy habits a ritual. So we're a subscription service focused on the multivitamin space where we send our subscribers their monthly multivitamins. In 2016, we launched with our Essential for Women product, which you can see here to the right, but we have expanded products across men's, teens, and pregnancy. At our core, we are a health meets technology company that really values science, quality, transparency, and ingredients that work best in your body. I'm just going to give an overview of the data and tech stack that we use here at Ritual, since I think that might be interesting for some folks before we get into the acquisition aspect. So two primary things that we were concerned with when we were building our data stack was scalability and usability. The first being that we wanted our stack to be something that could grow with us as a business, not only as like our data expanded, but as the complexity of our data grew. In addition, as with many startups and D2C startups, we were growing incredibly fast, not just as a business, but within the actual number of users. So we wanted to have a system that could scale, not just with the business, but with the people growth as well. The second thing we were concerned about was usability. I think that there are many varied skill sets across our business, and we wanted to ensure that, especially for a business intelligence tool, we had something that people from multiple levels could use, so people who can write SQL and people who don't know what a median is. It was really important that we had something that could sort of work for both types of people. So this is just a high overview of what our data tech stack looks like. It starts at the very top with our cloud data sources. So these are things from Segment, ad platforms, our CX service, email CRMs, anything like that. We use just out-of-the-box ETL services like Fivetran and Stitch to pipe our data into Snowflake. We use dbt, which is the data build tool, if you haven't heard of it, which we use to transform raw data into usable data for our analytics purposes. Once we have transformed the data to be usable, it kind of goes two places, one of which is for data science modeling, which is a lot of the work I'm primarily focused on, and we use Databricks for a lot of that work. The other main facet that like 90% of the business users are using is on the business intelligence side, which is Looker. So our Looker instance is built off of our Snowflake instance. So yeah, this is just a high overview. And I'm going to let Divine take it from here to talk about how we use all of this to really expand our understanding of growth at Ritual.
Yeah, thank you, Kira. So in this section, we'll be going over, one, the relationship between growth and data and how the integration of data in Looker for our acquisition strategy really helps us grow. And then we'll dive into the 4 aspects of Looker that really are ingrained in our acquisition strategy. So tell by this Venn diagram, the data and the growth teams here at Ritual have their own space in which they really thrive in, but we tend to see a lot of overlap just because with growth being such a numbers and metrics driven team, the data team and Looker have been super incremental into how we view our strategy and our growth in the different channels that we advertise in. So with the integration of the data team and Looker, acquisition is a continuous opportunity for scale and efficiency. So by the reliance and the trust that we have in our data team with the foundation that they've built over the past few years, and just the foundation of Looker with having everything in one place and being able to see numbers from all angles, we're really able to get an understanding of how we're performing, whether it's on a day-to-day basis or just since Ritual's founding, and how we can use that historical performance to grow efficiently and at scale. So the 4 lenses that we'll be looking at how Looker and growth and data really all marry into one foundation is reporting, transparency, streamlining, and perspective. So we'll first cover the first 3 sections, the first 3 lenses. So for reporting is pretty fundamental into how we really understand how our acquisition channels are performing, and Looker is our hub for all things related to our acquisition performing, and it's a really cool tool that we are able to use to really help us see how what's going on in Looker is translating to what we're seeing in our respective channel platforms, and it's pretty fundamental into understanding the acquisition performance as a whole. And then on the transparency side, so as Kira mentioned in our Ritual mission, transparency is a huge part of not only how our company operates externally, but internally. So Looker is a cool opportunity for that, just because you can literally find everything data or company related in Looker, whether it's through Looker dashboards that the data team or the consumer insights team or the product team sets up, to email and Slack integrations that we can get on a daily basis, and just alerts, whether it's through email dashboards or other aspects of Looker features that really help us ensure that the data is remaining accessible and usable. So whether you're involved in the project or not, you're able to get some insight into how the company is performing as a whole, whether you're on that team or not, and just usability and for users across the business. And then for streamlining, Looker is the one central hub for performance tracking at Ritual, and we utilize that just because it makes it easier for everyone on the acquisition team to really understand how we're performing as a whole and how each channel's performances are interacting with each other, just so we're able to combine and compile robust profiles of performance and users within Looker. So the 4th lens, which is multiple perspectives, we'll be looking at how different channels interact with the Looker Hub in general. So we'll be looking from the perspective of the acquisition channel platform, specifically Google Ads, as that's the channel of the different Google properties that I oversee in my position. And we'll also be looking at post-purchase insights, since that plays a huge role into how we optimize and really decide how we want to market the product from an advertising perspective, and how all of that relates to the Looker Hub. So the role of Looker on the acquisition channel platform. So we utilize how Google Ads as a platform and Google Ads and Looker really interact as us first and foremost syncing directly with our Looker platform. So we sync everything from the high level overviews like our spend data, our click data, and our conversion data, along with more of the granular aspects like landing page data, our search query data, as we're pretty robust into how we target and find new customers through Google's multiple properties. And it really complements our attribution dashboard, specifically our post-purchase looks, because it gives us an understanding into what the effectiveness that the platform is reporting is relating to what the effectiveness that lookers are performing, and letting us being able to make broader insights into how we can make this a very strong channel for us in the short term and the long term. And having an acquisition channel platform like Google being synced into our looker helps other key stakeholders on the team outside of acquisition, whether it's the product team, the engineering team, or the operations team, being able to understand the channel happenings and where there's room for opportunity, just because it's such a huge channel, and having Looker being able to centralize and sync all of that information makes the process a little less overwhelming and really helps us to see things through a nice magnifying glass. And on the post-purchase side, so we utilize two key surveying tools. One is the Net Promoter Score, which is what customers receive after they purchase, and a brand sentiment survey, which is our own internal survey that our consumer insights team created just to get an understanding of how customers are resonating with our product values and our brand values. So we're able to utilize this information to find ways that we can market the products better to customers that we think that can benefit them, but maybe not be as aware of what exactly Ritual entails and how it can be super beneficial to add to their daily routine. And it also offers us insights into how customers are really resonating with the product. And we really have a strong consumer insights team that's able to pull that information and share with the acquisition team. So maybe something that we might not be seeing on our end, the consumer insights can extract, and we can collaborate and share that information, which just makes our overall acquisition, especially in AdWords, stronger, as information like ad copy and visuals really helps us hone in on what the prospective customer is looking for when they're looking to convert and find a new product to add to their daily routine. And it also encourages collaboration with other internal teams invested in the sector of business, as growth and acquisition is a huge part of the company overall. And then just to relay on what I said previously, for AdWords, the channel relies on the advantages of Looker to, one, optimize campaigns based on historical behavior of the prospective customer's journey, just based on the insights that we gather from the data side and how that syncs up into Looker and how we can translate that to optimizing in the Google Ads platform. And then we utilize these data findings and trends to apply customer learnings to prospective audiences. So taking those post-purchase insights and marrying them with the data insights that we're seeing and figuring out how to construct the perfect prospective audience to convert and take Ritual. And then finally, determining the gaps of opportunity, just because as we're growing really rapidly, we're seeing still a lot of white space to really take advantage of and really understand. So we're able to scale the acquisition, especially Google, to what it can really achieve. And so just to wrap this section up, our three main takeaways of Looker and growth and data is the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to optimize, and ultimately the opportunity to grow as an acquisition channel and overall team.
Great. Thanks, Divine. Divine's kind of an expert of data on the growth team. And one of the ways that we're able to have people from different teams really sort of be their own data advocates is by building a really strong data culture at Ritual. It's something we take really great pride in, and the fact that we've worked really hard to get to this point. We have three sort of main priorities in how we view a data culture at Ritual. The first is Looker accessibility. The second is data office hours. And the third is establishing data advocates. And I will go into all three of these in a sec. So when we talk about Looker accessibility, we really talk about making data democratized throughout our company and throughout the key stakeholders that really need it. There are really two primary things that we utilize to ensure that this happens. The first is the Looker Slack integration. We use this integration on a regular basis to send out like scheduled dashboards for like specific teams and projects, or just quick links that people want to send out to get people's opinions on. It also allows for people who may not have full Looker access or any Looker access at all to get insight into the data and become interested in what's happening there. The second key thing is we definitely use the alerting system on Looker to leverage for us when something might be wrong in our system, or if business is just kind of off that day or it's really great that day. So they've been really fundamental for allowing us to quickly notice bugs, difficulties in the user experience, and more. The second key thing in building a data culture for us at Ritual is building what we call data office hours. We have 4 main tenets of what our office hours should follow, and that they will be accessible, recurring, interactive, and rewarding. So data office hours, which is really under the umbrella of data education at Ritual, follows these 4 tenets because we think it's the best way to encourage our stakeholders to become more independent in the data analysis process. So the first important thing is obviously we want them to be accessible. At Ritual, we don't think that data should be limited to specific teams or specific people, and we make all the content for data office hours available, accessible, and understandable to anyone who might have any interest. And that sort of means simplifying the content to really be impactful and actionable for people. Sure, there will be some days where we might go over more complex queries or in SQL, but at the end of the day, we still want content to be relatable to people across the business. And again, like Divine said, this does align with our company values of being transparent and inclusive, and that's really important for us as a business. The second thing is we have our office hours be recurring. For us, that looks like we have them on an every other week basis, but by having them recurring, we allow ourselves to build an organized schedule and really create formalized lessons plans for people to look forward to, or be like, oh, I need to go this week, or maybe this week's not as important for me. So it really allows people to tailorize their own learning. In addition, I think having something on a recurring basis really emphasizes the business importance of having something like this and encourages people to sort of prioritize that once every 2 weeks or something like that. The third key component that we look at is having them be interactive. No one really likes to sit and be lectured at like we're doing today, but we like to make the content educational, fun, and interactive, and we try to involve like guest speakers, we call them. They're kind of our own internal expert data speakers. So for example, someone on the retention team probably has a much better understanding of that data than I would, and they're probably the best person to talk about it. So we try to incorporate that, as well as games. Pre-pandemic, we did a fun little Jeopardy activity. It was intense, and it was great. The last aspect is having these office hours be rewarding. Obviously, most of us work in the data world, and we'd love for everyone to just want to learn as much about data as possible. But at the end of the day, that's not necessarily the priority for everyone. So we found that incentives were pretty important in maintaining strong participation. Just a fun call out. We used vegan baked goods to encourage people to show up. Obviously, pre-pandemic, of course, but even virtually, we've still managed to maintain decent participation. So it's really been great for us to be able to continue this during this more difficult time. So in these office hour sessions, there's kind of 3 main things that we cover. The first is like your data basics and Looker usability, whether that's showing someone how to create a custom dimension or to pivot on something or to filter on specific dates. Like, this is sort of where we cover that. Me and one other person from our consumer insights team will usually lead that. The second key thing is to democratize data science initiatives. We like to use the platform to talk about some of the more exciting data science projects we might be working on and sort of get people's ideas sparking about how they can see more advanced analytics and data science play a role in their position at the company. The third is we use them to leverage consumer insight reporting to the entire company. We have a great consumer insights team, like Divine had mentioned before, and we like to use data office hours as a platform to spread that information and get people utilizing that information in their work. So by having this more formalized data training, we really allow ourselves so many things that strengthen our business and strengthen our skills within our company. The first is for the data team to understand the strengths and weaknesses teams might have using data. This helps us sort of tailor what we need to teach people, what's more important for people, what's less important, and help us prioritize those types of lessons. The second is looking at the kind of data that people use more regularly. By understanding what people are using more regularly or not, it also helps the data team prioritize like which projects need to get done sooner than others. The third is fielding data requests. We have a more formalized process for putting in data requests, but at something informal like office hours, we sort of get a good opportunity to see where people's thoughts are regarding certain analyses or projects, and it sort of gets a good baseline for us to be like, okay, people are more interested in this and less interested in that, so it helps us a lot. And then the fourth and probably most important takeaway from having formalized data training is the fact that we're able to establish data leads and advocates within specific teams. So for example, Divine is kind of that person on the acquisition team who people on her team can go to when they need help on creating a look or finding specific data within Looker. And that's really been great to help lift some weight off of the data team, but also allow people on different teams to become more independent. So just lectured a lot, but the TLDR of building a data culture, like a really strong, cohesive one, we see three main things is practice what you preach. If you are saying you really want your team to be data-driven and you want all decisions to be made off of data, we really encourage you as your data team to track success and track struggles quantitatively and qualitatively. That could be through surveys, that can be through other sources, but we really think that like if you're able to track success, if you implement a program like this, the stronger the case you make for data and your team. The second is we definitely believe in making them more formalized, making them with agendas and schedules, just to reiterate the importance and make plans clear and accessible to people so people know when it's more relevant or not for them to show up. And lastly, this is very unique to your own company, is use your own principles that define your team and your company to establish the framework that works for you. So for example, if accessibility and transparency is not the most important thing at your company and for your team, so maybe not everyone needs access to Looker or needs to be looking at the data every day, then you don't have to make that a tenet of how you build this framework. For us, that is important, so that has been a really defining theme for us. So we'd like to thank everyone for your time. I think we covered a lot of really great information, but we're going to do a quick Q&A now. So let Annie sort of take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kira. So thank you guys again. This brings the formal presentation to an end, and we're going to open it up to the Q&A. So just as a reminder, submit your question by typing it into the Q&A panel. Let's start with the first question. What are some examples you have done in your data office hours?
Yeah, so we've done, I think we've done a total of like 15 or 20 now. I think when we first started off, we weren't quite sure what people would be interested in. So we started off with like data basics, like what's the difference between a median and a mean, and when do you use them? And we've expanded to things like what are the most appropriate data visualizations for certain types of data and certain types of situations. We've also been able to have a little more complex things where we sort of show off like a data science 101, what I do on a daily basis. We've covered a bunch of stuff, and yeah, it's been great to be able to show so many things to people that are within our company. If people are interested in learning more about how we do data office hours at Ritual, we also have a Medium blog you can follow. That's just Ritual's tech blog.
Awesome. Next question is, how are you using Looker alerts for QA purposes?
I'll take this one again. So, for example, we have a QA engineering team, and they do a great job of running tests on events and everything we track on site to ensure that people can check out, people can view our products, people can see everything that they want to see. So if we run X number of tests, we want to make sure that they pass. And so we use alerts to determine if to send pretty much notifications if something's going wrong, or if we're seeing a ton of success in one day, to also notify us about that, because that can mean either things are going great or there could potentially be something wrong with the user experience. So yeah, our engineering team and our product team leverage those very heavily to ensure that everything's a-okay on the site.
Great. Next one is, what are some other channels you have been able to expand to, given this data-driven strategy for acquisition?
Using this sort of multifaceted view has allowed us to expand into, I think, like smaller, more incremental channels. So things like podcasts and influencers, using how we have the post-purchase acquisition and in-platform. Obviously, for things like podcasts, that's a little more abstract, but by having Looker be our central hub for those types of things, we've been able to have a data-driven approach to channels that typically maybe aren't so data-driven to begin with.
Really good to know. Next one is, what's your favorite feature of Looker?
Personally, I really like the SQL runner. I think it allows people who maybe are a little more advanced in their skill set go beyond using just the data that the data team provides in the explorers. And I think it allows people to really develop a more technical skill set that they can utilize at Ritual and in their future workplaces. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the SQL runner. I think it's been really helpful for especially our product and engineering teams to sort of become a little more advanced in their data skill set and knowledge.
That's very interesting to hear from the Looker perspective too. One of the next questions is, how do you use customer post-purchase behavior in your acquisition modeling? How does Looker help with that?
So our post-purchase insights, whether that's through different types of surveys, really allows us to understand the different sort of paths people took to understand about Ritual and to eventually lead them to convert. We can see things in the Facebook and Google, like all of those different ad platforms, and obviously they want to show their best footing. So by having post-purchase insights that vary across different types of surveys, we can sort of really, obviously acquisition, it's impossible to find the truth unless you actually talk to the person. But we definitely use them to sort of penetrate through the truth of the ad platforms to understand where exactly our value lies in spending money in certain ad platforms or not. So yeah, I would say the post-purchase insights, whether that's through surveys or through behaviors that we see, has been really fundamental to helping us understand where the truth is in some of the ad platforms that are obviously, they want you to spend more money at the end of the day. So yeah.
Awesome. The next one kind of ponies up right to that. It's, how has Looker helped improve the quality of acquisition efforts?
I think it's just really helped us get a more accurate representation of what our acquisition channel performance looks like, just because, as Kira mentioned, that what the platform is reporting can be look very good for you, but maybe it's not translating as well to what the breakdown looks like on the back end. So I think with all of our efforts with Looker, it's really allowed us to understand how a prospective and current customer behaves and what we can take from that and apply it to our major acquisition channels. Awesome.
The last question actually kind of looks more like it's framed for me. It says, is there a free Looker software available for practice? For anyone who's interested, I would encourage you to go to looker.com/demo. You can enter in your information, and then we can help you out, get set up with, a trial or something like that. I think that is everything for today in terms of questions. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us and for listening. I thought this was really fascinating to hear how Ritual does things. So thank you again for joining us, and that's the end.